Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next talk in the CrySP speaker series on privacy. And it's such a positive surprise to see so many people here and online, even though it's on a warm August day. I'd warned Mauro that we might not see that many people in person. So it's my great pleasure to welcome and introduce you to my fellow system security researcher and friend, Professor Mauro Conti. From the University of Padua. He's a professor there, as well as a visiting professor at Örebro University in Sweden as a voluntary visiting professor. You can read Mauro's biography for all his accolades and so on, so I'm not going to repeat that. I think he became an academic only about 15 years ago, which is sort of when I met him. But in those 15 years, he has had a remarkable career. He's an IEEE fellow. He has won many awards. What strikes me as particularly impressive is he works on a broad range of topics, and he also collaborates with a broad range of people, both in industry and academia around the world. So, like I said, I'm not going to walk through his accomplishments. You can read that for yourself. I won't stand in the way between you and Mauro talking about his overview of his research. Welcome, Mauro.
Thanks a lot, Ashokam, for the invitation. Thanks, Diana, for the organization and everybody for being here. As you can see, I'm also impressed how many people can actually show up in the middle of the summer. As you can say, I'm working with a lot of people, a lot of students, and all the accomplishment could have not been done without the support of collaborators and people in my group. So if you don't mind, I would like to spend a few words to quickly introduce the research group I'm trying to lead, which is mostly based at the University of Padua and also at the Örebro University now, where I have this guest position under the WASP fellowship. So this is about first University of Padua. Is in the northeast part of Italy. It's one of the oldest university in the world. Few things to tell you about the University of Padua. Again, it's one of the oldest universities. Was founded in 1922 as a split from what is known to be the oldest university in the world, according to some definition that somebody may be capable about the university. The oldest is supposed to be the University of Bologna. That was founded in 1088, and at some point. 122 approx. Some people, a student and professor, moved from Bologna to Venice to establish they didn't set or didn't start this way, but eventually they established a new university. And the idea of moving out from Bologna was that at the time, a significant portion of central part of Italy was actually ruled by the church. So it comes with some kind of constraints, particularly at that time. On the type of recession, the way you could do recession, and so on. And actually this, made a strong, characteristic of the University of Padua at the time. Nowadays, probably any university has it. But the time was a strong characteristic to be very strong, independent from all the things the constraints that the church was imposing. And this freedom allows me sometimes to make a joke and say Galileo Galilei is my colleague, because actually Galilei was actually from Tuscany, so another part of Italy. But he moved to Padua because of this freedom that was at the University of Padua, and the freedom was possible because of the protection of the Republic of Venice. So it was completely, independent from the ruled part of the church. And apart from this, actually, this is the point from where Galileo was teaching. I think you visited this, Ashkan. And it's actually really impressive. As a scientist, I was feeling, okay, I'm nobody. If you're at the university where Galileo was teaching, it's really impressive to visit these, the main building and so on. Another historical trait. This is the first stable anatomical theater in the world. So this was used to teach anatomy with real human bodies. And actually, there's a legend that here the human body was on a table, which was a rotating table. Somebody from the church was approaching, they were rotating the table, and the human body was falling on a sort of a river. On the other side, there was an animal body attached. And there are a lot of other things. Definitely to mention also that this has been the first university to award a degree to a woman in 1678. And I mean, of course, a lot of awards in terms of university, quality of the research, it's been awarded as the first university needed for the quality of the research, and so on. And also there are small connection with my secondary affiliation, which is Örebro University, because this was one of the Swedish scientists studying in Italy, actually in the Hall of Fame, with this Hall of 40. This is this room before the Aula Magna of the University of Padua, where there are all famous people from Europe at that time coming, also now, but that time was more important and more unique, coming to Padua to study, and this was a person that, if I'm not wrong, has been also rector of the University of Uppsala, and Örebro was born as a kind of branch of the Uppsala University. And informally, this is the name of the group is Spritz, which is also a famous aperitif in the northeast of Italy. And but I have an excuse for the acronym, and I have a very nice picture that was very nice to find yesterday with Aslan, where actually it was a PhD school. I don't remember exactly which PhD school, but we were with Aslan and some other friend. And this is not a typical group meeting, okay? There was a social event associated with the university. So again, all I did and I'm doing it would have never been possible without the precious support of all the people that work, and I had the pleasure to work with along these years. And so this is a big picture of faculty members, postdoc, PhD, master student that are working currently with me, and a long list of alumni are readable, but I mean, long list of people that somehow contributed to work in the group and now ended up in many universities from Oxford, ATH, and others, and companies, of course, worldwide. These are some of the main collaborations we have or had in the past. So we have institutional collaboration with government, with NATO, and with companies, as you see. These are some of the companies that funded our research, and I would say that last year's a significant portion, maybe 50% of the funding is coming roughly from the companies, and 50% is coming from European Union project. And these are some of the things that ended up in the news over time, from authentication, Android security, future internet architecture, network traffic analysis, which is something I will discuss in the talk today, and some other work we have done more on the system security side. We have done some contribution in the solutions against buffer overflow or mitigation of the buffer overflow exploitation. And this ended up also being implemented in the current version of the Tor browser, solution to randomize at the execution time the address space of the code. Some other area we worked in the past, like software-defined network security or fitness trigger. We worked in the past, and recently also we had some work. And these are also some other things, like these are the tissue spool. Maybe these were the one of the picture that I showed before. And these are some other things I will probably mention in the other part of the talk, so I'm not gonna spoil. And by the way, if there is any question in the meanwhile, I mean, maybe not now, but during that short talk, if you have any question, feel free to interrupt me. These are some prizes we got for people in the group with thesis from CrySP, which is Italian Association for Cybersecurity. This over time we got several prizes from the intelligence service in Italy. Also, they have a prize that we got with some students, and also we are part of Cyber Challenge Initiatives, which is a capture the flag kind of competition that we run in Italy with several universities. Was actually the first edition, and in the first edition we got the first prize. Then it's hard, I mean, to get better. But also, I mean, likely now there are many more universities that participate in this competition and this kind of initiative, also for awareness and stimulate students to work in the area. And again, several European projects that we have to thank for funding our research. I mean, the current only standing one now is Lazarus, a project on software security development, and the collapse just ended a while ago was about cyber physical systems and mostly on industrial control system security. These are some other, groups, international, national group we're part of, like the CISEC, and we contribute to a couple of testbeds, the NDN testbed, which is a testbed about future internet architecture, particularly information-centric networks. That has been also a US funded project. In this area, an Open Sky, which is also a testbed to collect data from ADSB. I don't know whether somebody's familiar with this, which is a communication protocol that planes use to broadcast their position to the ground, to the control tower, to manage the and these are some of the main collaboration we have, and some have also been mentioned before. We also have a specific program for master degree in cybersecurity that I contributed to establish. And these were the first graduates. We are also very active in the technology transfer, patents, and spin-off startup, and is one of them. And of course, we are also very active in dissemination outside university and scientific talk. And maybe in one slide, a possible recap of these areas, as you can see, we work in several areas. These are probably the most representative one, ranging from the one started more in the past, like network and future internet architecture, like information cycling, software network, IoT, mobile security, silent cover channel, which is basically, the topic of the talk today will be inside this specific palette, let's say. We work also on social network. We got actually recently NDSS paper accepting, showing, with some proof of shadow banning in famous social network available today, where shadow banning means not proper banning, but significantly pushing the visibility of some news and significantly reducing the visibility of some other type of news. So this is a very important contribution, I think, to show and be aware. We recently, probably, these are the two areas where we work more, actually. Silent cover channel somehow is an active topic. And the topic in the talk I will give in a short while, you will see, a broad range of papers that we published in the last maybe 10 years, touching different topics, but I try to put them all together. But the two topics we are probably more active, focusing now, cyber physical system security. We do a lot of research on automotive, all the automotive range, also the electric vehicles, autonomous driving and so on, CAN-bus, also the communication network inside the vehicle, and AI and cybersecurity and adversarial AI. So meaning, that's a very broad topic for nowadays. So of course, the use of AI for attacks and defenses, but also looking at the security of AI component itself. Okay, so all the adversarial behavior, like membership inference, vector, and so on, and specifically, of course, completely focusing on LLM. But again, most of the talk somehow will, the interface of these two topics, but it's mostly on the silent cover channel. Okay, we'll then switch to it. Again, if you want, please interrupt me anytime. I think somebody is monitoring also the chat and the Q&A session on Zoom. So again, here I put together this silent cover channel topics. Somehow, some of them started really by chance or by joke. Some of this, the research we have done is not a joke, but the way it started, actually, it was like a curiosity or a joke. And out of this, I came out this reflection of the fact that actually maybe we scientists, we spend a lot of time on focusing on things which are, of course, definitely very interesting, particularly in the cybersecurity domain. And sometimes it might be too much, let's say, intellectual stimulating for us, and then we focus on that. But oftentimes we have to realize that I mean, adversaries might tend to do what is easier for them to do to catch the information at the end, right? I mean, they don't care to split the beat to do buffer flow. If there is an easier way to get the information, they might do it. Okay, this is, I mean, just to remind us that, I mean, the crime theory tells us that every time there is an opportunity, a means, and a motive, there is a reason to have a crime in any possible way. Okay, this now I moved the slide, so it's not easy to make the joke, but I could say that now my computer is blocked, or maybe this was some university computer, and I could ask them to put the password. Okay, usually this joke works. Now I moved the slide, so it doesn't work. But the question for you is, what could happen if somebody input a password here? So let's assume that joke was fine, and I claim this is a universal whatever computer or ASUS computer. Can you please come and type your password? Okay. Imagine this is the scenario, and very often, I mean, we as lecturer, for example, we go in the classroom and we plug the projector, the beamer, and then we type any type of password, either to unlock our machine, to log in on website, and so on. Question for you is, what can go wrong, and what an adversary can exploit out of this action? Imagine now me typing a password. What imagine you as an adversary, which you're very nice people, I know, but imagine for a while you're a bad person, an adversary, and you want to steal the password of this user. What are the information you get from this scenario?
Number of characters.
Yes, very good. Number of characters, which is, I mean, we know if you have to run a brute force attack, it's quite interesting information. You restrict the brute force to that length, right? What else?
Typing cadence,
Typing?
the speed on
The speed, this is very nice input. Can the speed reveal information? Maybe. Good suspect. Let's keep the suspect. No? What else?
the sound.
The sound. Can the sound reveal the password? Maybe. Let's keep the suspect. And because, I mean, you know what? I mean, if somebody wants to steal the password, I mean, why you have to do hacking, I mean, traditional hacking on the operating system, buffer flow, and so on? If you can just hear the sound and look the timing, right? Other. I can see your hands. I can see what you're typing. Okay. Another good observation is that if you have a view on the hands and the keyboard, then probably you can infer some other information. Okay.
Takes a certain angle, the heat sensing.
Sorry?
Heat sensing, so from his position, if you had a heat sensing camera.
Okay, heat sensing is another good suspect that we can keep. It might have to reveal information. Anything else?
Sometimes people make mistakes when they type their password, so maybe the style of mistake tells you something about the character order
Oh, it's
or.
very interesting. I never thought about this. It's actually an interesting one. Okay, that's also something we can keep maybe for the future. What else? I mean, as a traditional security people, we can of course come up with other things. I mean, first of all, you see the version of the operating system, you see the nickname. These are very precious information, right? You know, in the first phase of any attack, you have the reconnaissance phase where you try to study and assess, I mean, what is the victim, right? You have to face with. Yeah.
Not at Waterloo, but other universities I've been at, reporting is auto started by the room itself. And so you can also have all of this nicely reported in high resolution for you.
Yes, exactly. So, like, even now we're making a video of this talk, and very often there are, I mean, high resolution and many mics around in the lecture room. At least there are many phones, I'm sure. I mean, probably not recording, but they could be recording. So there are many information we can get from the traditional security things and from the, I mean, side channel of using a system, right? So put it in other words, I mean, this is a joke in which we can describe, I mean, the type of attacks that can actually come from the real world that are not very close to what we, maybe security nerd or crypto nerd, imagine the world to work with. So this is what most of the time, I'm sure, because I do the same, we keep reasoning like this. Oh, this is a 4,000 B, so it will take this and that amount of years, the brute force, blah, blah. real life very often, unfortunately, is much closer to what is on the right of this picture. I mean, anything is kind of allowed by the adversary, right? And yeah, so the rest of the talk will basically touch upon some of this attack. I would say it's a kind of not very deep and not very structured talk, but I would like to give a broad view and stimulate your curiosity on some of the things can be done, leveraging information from the physical world.
You kind of gave the example of asking Ashokan to come to the front to type this password.
Yeah,
But a lot of the side channels that you just talked about, that is not a requirement, right? Like if I'm sitting here and typing,
Yes.
you can use the same thing. right?
yes, exactly. Yeah.
The act of doing this in front
Yeah.
is not necessarily the reason.
Yeah.
why-
Yeah, many of the things I mentioned, actually, very good observation. I mean, I use this because, I mean, usually it works fine and I make the joke and then the people come and say, oh, it's not mine or that. But actually, that is a very good observation. Many of the side information that we mentioned could be applied to you. So be careful. Okay, joking, but it's a very good observation, and we will go back on that. Again, so I will mention several of these attacks. One way to look at, I mean, the coming things I'm mentioning is to look at, consider them from different physical measures. Particularly a subset of this, anyway, we focus on a specific target, which is embedding keystrokes. Or you can see, for most of the talk also, there are a lot of issues with the devices we interact with. Okay. So let's start first with a few seconds of one course of what is a covert channel, what is a side channel, and then we will go to the meat and see what various things we found over the course of the years. Okay, so we spend our life, we security scientists, practitioners, to secure access control to machine and secure all kind of communication protocols, right? So that's what mostly we do. I mean, we do many other things, but mostly focus on these two things. And if everything works, should be not easy, not possible for an adversary to break into machine or to meaningfully eavesdrop on communication. Okay, but everything we do has a side effect. When somebody now is studying, we can hear some noise. Fine, we might ignore or we might record. Actually, this is probably recorded in the video. Probably not, because the sound is very low. But everything we do with machines, with hardware, it has a physical effect, right? So a side channel, maybe somebody can give me a quick definition or also intuitive definition of what is a side channel. How many of you are students? So I can bother you. Students, raise them. Oh, many students. You had an answer.
Yeah, I'm an instructor, so if you wanna go walk around this.
Yeah, let's bother them. Let's bother them first. Definition of a side channel? Yeah.
I guess, an unintended channel by which information is leaked.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, that is it. So the two things is a channel, is a communication channel from the information theory, if you like. I mean, it's a way to extract, communicate, extrapolate information, and it's a side channel. Side channel means it's there as a side effect. Nobody told about having that communication channel. Okay, as a side effect of other things that have been designed for other purposes, you can read information if you are, let's say, smart enough or you think enough. Okay, slightly different concept is the one of a covert channel. Okay, what is the trick here? What is a slightly different idea within a side channel and a covert channel? Yes.
Covert channel is, when you talk about covert channel, you talk about covert channel, so it's more about leaking information.
Yeah, you can leak information also with side. There is one characteristic that distinguishes two of them.
And it could be intended.
Yes, exactly. That's the main thing. Side channel is there by chance. I mean, nobody thought about building a channel. But if you're smart enough, you can get information out of that. Covert channel is intentionally made. So I could pre-agree with Ashigan if I wink or if I do this, means like bring me a good coffee. But that is a channel you established before. So the encoding of the channel you have to clarify it before, right? So this is a basically Covert channel. There are many traditional examples of the prisoners that you can write a letter and say, oh, the actual content of the letter is not the letter itself, but it's only what you can get from the first character of each line, for example. You can imagine many other Covert channels. Okay, let's start from this first idea of looking at the encrypted traffic. Okay, so the hypothetical attack scenarios can be the following. I can come here with a access point in my bag with a SSID in the ROM. What would happen if many of your phone would connect to my access point? Then you have connection, you don't mind. Say, oh, thank you, maybe the connection is better than the one I usually. And also in that case, what can be the threat there? What can be the threat, or what I could observe? These are some other works that try to look in the similar direction. What if I can imagine I'm doing this attack now? What I can steal about your information about your traffic of your phone?
I mean, I guess it's internet like packet typing.
Yes.
Things like that, destination.
Yes. Should we care?
Probably.
Probably. Okay. I mean, sorry, when somebody has a destination, of course, it's important, but there are now many things which are, VPN, kind of encryption. Also, as we observe, I mean, many applications go, for example, through Akamai, which have this content distribution network, and you connect that IP, and what is the actual service on that Akamai? We don't know, right? It's an Akamai IP. Yes?
The metadata,
Metadata like?
Yeah.
Like what?
like the destination of the website you visit
Yeah.
and your network activities and some network protocols sitting there and encrypted like plain text DNS, those kind of things.
Yeah, we have many, I mean, we can call it metadata, that, I mean, some of them can be hidden in some context like encrypted traffic, VPN and so on, but definitely what you always see is this three information, right? Because you have to communicate, so the packet needs to be there. It can be encrypted, can be whatever, but the packet needs to be there, otherwise there's no state of path, right? So you definitely see the length, you see the direction, whether it's incoming or outgoing packet, you see the timing at which it's coming and so on. So the question at the time was, can somebody leverage or exploit this information to steal information about people and their activity on their mobile devices? Imagine, I mean, there have been, for example, I mean, the Arab Spring, if you remember, a few years back, where countries were calling for revolution with anonymous profile in social networks, and then there were anonymous activities in the social network profile, in anonymous social network profile. Imagine if government and or telco operator could, by looking at the traffic, say, oh, you know, that phone did this action. And then, of course, if you easily correlate the timing of public evidence of anonymous profile, then you can say, okay, that's not anonymous that much anymore, right? And our question was, okay, can anybody look at the traffic? I mean, the traffic is inherently wireless, you know, either being here we focus on access point, but similar reason can be applied to, I mean, 5G kind of data. And then the question was whether we could identify exactly what action the user is doing on his or her mobile device, where with the action, we mean something useful or meaningful in the device, like sending an email, receiving a WhatsApp, okay? That's what we mean useful, meaningful information. So what we do is, or what we consider is that any interaction you do on the phone, it's basically a basic of user action, like touching, swiping, and so on. And all of this, or many of the things you do, almost everything you do on the phone, generate a network traffic, okay? And we particularly focus on the network flows, which are these bars of traffic between an IP port and IP port. If you do an action on your phone, it usually generates more network flows. Like if suddenly there are several TCP/IP establishment, connection establishment with different IPs or with the same IP on different ports and flows of traffic. So this is the setting. Again, also in the interest of time, I will try to not skip details, let's say. So I will not give details on how we collect the data and did the experiment, but I would like to give you a visual representation of one action. This, if I'm not wrong, is email send. Email send means 3 network flows, so 3 bars of data exchange with 3 different IP. And here you see a representation. So different color means different flows. On X, you see time sequence. On Y, you see size of data exchange, outgoing or incoming. And this is what it looks like. I mean, for us human, we can have some visual representation. And all our question was, I mean, that was also a few years ago, so they were actually even not using neural network or fancy AI things, traditional, simple random forest and similar algorithms to try to map. So basically what we do is for each network flow, we cluster the flows, and for each action, we create a vector of what are the flows that have been triggered for that action, okay? Again, without going into the details, so basically you can rethink the problem of having for each action a set of clusters that have been triggered, and then we apply random forest on this one. And basically, again, keeping the details, this is the outcome, where on X you see, I mean, different groups, different colors are different apps. And on X, you see the specific action that we aim to identify. And you see on Y the accuracy, which is always quite high. We were also impressed. I mean, the setting was, I mean, the experiment was done in a kind of controlled environment, but we don't expect very different performances. But here you see the results, right? So that means that only by looking at the encrypted network traffic, I'm not talking about compromising the phone. You don't need to compromise my phone. I don't need to have any vulnerable application. I'm just use traditional state-of-the-art technology, crypto, updated operating system, and so on. An adversary now in this room is routing the wireless channel, could get signal, encrypted data. I could say, okay, now Ashok just received a WhatsApp message, and maybe Mahesh or somebody else sent a message. Then we can say, okay, then very likely these 2 people are talking with each other if there is a very close time synchrony on send and receive messages. Okay, so of course these can have various consequences. For example, with a similar technology or approach, you can identify the set of applications that this person has installed on his or her mobile device, and you can easily imagine there have been, and also paper by psychologists that we can all understand that if I tell you the set of applications a person has on the phone, we can probably very likely tell sex, age range, language spoken, countries that that person is visiting, and so on. Okay. Similarly, you can, as we have mentioned for a password case, I mean, the first phase is always a reconnaissance phase where you try to understand, I mean, who is the victim, and then this can also be used for reconnaissance, where, for example, you can try to understand what application a victim has on his or her mobile device, and then you can see the CV of that application that you can exploit, right? Okay, that was, again, we skip details. There was results on network traffic, encrypted network traffic analysis. Now, jumping back and forth, this is a much more recent work. This also kind of started by chance with a student that came to me that wanted to do a master's thesis. I say, okay, what do you like to do? I mean, what are the areas you like, the things you like? He said, oh, I like gaming. Okay, I'm not sure that is very useful now. But actually, I had an idea. I said, okay, since I had this idea in mind, maybe that's a good time to try. And my guess was, or my intuition that I wanted to prove was whether a person can be profiled by the way he play with a character on a game, right? And actually, we have done this with Dota 2, particularly. I mean, I'm at all not expert about gaming. Just see my son doing it. But I understood. I mean, during this work, I understood that there's a huge business. I was shocked. Like yearly, the money that are moved by the gaming industry is like a GPT of a country. And it's not nuts. Anyway, so the idea was, can we use the gaming information to profile or de-identify a person? And the answer you'll see is yes, with some accuracy. In particular, we did on Dota 2 because this student told me that there are some servers which all the recording of all the gaming of people, probably not all, but many gaming are recorded. You have all the information about the movement of the character and so on. And of course, I mean, the motivation for this can be manifold. I mean, I also understood during this work that there are many things that, I mean, first of all, there are prizes involved in many gaming activities, big prizes, like millions or so. There are issues with newbie creating creating new profiling and preventing the newbie, so newcomers in the and play against others. And then you want to identify whether that is a already existing person. As well, you can imagine cyberbullying, stalking, all kind of bad things where somebody can identify a person just the way he is moving a character in an online game, for example. I mean, if some of you is playing, maybe you can get some intuition of whether it makes sense what I'm saying. For example, there are two different main ways to move a character. Either you jump directly to a position, or you move step by step on a given position. And again, what we used, we got the data, and mostly on the movement of the character and on the view. Also, for those who are familiar with the game, usually you can move the character and you can change the view of what the character or you as a gamer are looking at. And basically, by looking at this information, we experimented with several models, and some of them achieved a very high accuracy in re-identifying a person that has been profiled before. Even more, we also try to get some other information from other metadata of the gaming, like when the user is playing, how often is playing, is buying stuff online, and so on. So we were able to also with some with users, we were able to infer to some extent also some personal information about that person. Like, is a person that is working, is working on a day shift, is working on the night. What is the economic range? If he's buying this stuff in a game, he probably is able to buy and deserve this amount of money for the gaming and so on. A similar work and a similar profiling on recent kind of things have been done in Spotify. And the question here was, I also found out during this work that your playlist, if not otherwise set, are all public. So if you don't explicitly change, I don't know whether it's changed now. I mean, it's different nowadays, but that time was this way. And also here, we wanted to understand whether it would have been possible to correlate the playlist with private personal information, like again, age range, and so on. And by the way, in the gaming, also, we were able to correlate with the psychological trait. Is that person aggressive or calm or whatever? We were able to correlate that one. And also in this case, again, we collected information from public playlists, and this is the target information that we aimed at reconstructing. And here you see with different models, I mean, the performances that we achieved.
So, Mauro,
Yeah,
how did you choose those?
this one.
Yeah.
I think we just, come up with a list of things that we could identify. I mean, probably we were biased from the other work we have done on the gaming part. And we thought there should have been some evidence right? In the playlist, like if you listen to some type of music, you are more in my age than my son, right?
Well, the reason I ask is, I vaguely remember reading about statistics that there are absurd correlations that are
Yeah. Yeah.
if you
Like correlation or causation, that's
correct.
yeah.
That's the reason I was asking.
Mhm.
So, for example, maybe the smoking thing is what I'm calling an absurd correlation that exists with
Yes,
that. It's fine. I understand. You're saying that you just came up with some.
yeah, the list we kind of came up with this, we look at the list of what other similar private information insurance work trying to refer and so on. And also we were probably biased on the other work we have done on personal traits and so on, but yes. I mean, the idea was like, I mean, gender and age, you might have a correlation. I mean, these are just bias we have in our mind. And we try to experiment with this, and these are the questions we ask the users.
So why do you have the ground truth data set?
With questionnaires, with users.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have the guess and you ask the.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, we ask a set of people, and then we imagine we don't know about some of them, and then
So.
Yeah.
This, the problem here would be that people other than Spotify also can know these things.
Yes,
Because Spotify definitely knows these things.
yeah. But if I have your profile, your credit card, maybe, and then done.
No, but I'm saying, like, when I go into Google ad preferences,
Yes,
Google knows more about me than my family does.
that's what they keep
Right.
saying.
And
Even about myself, probably. because
yeah,
I
and
don't remember.
sometimes I go look at it, oh yes, I do have that
Yeah.
tendency to do
Yes.
that. So it's not that, and Spotify is an ad-based system, so they're targeting ads at me, they're probably pushing me towards something like that. It's not about how a company can influence me, but more someone else can also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big point is that one. I mean, these are public information, most of, I mean, by default, I don't know today, but when we have done that, by default, all playlists were public. So if I can look at your public playlist, I can tell maybe this correlation with these things. And as you mentioned this, Google Ads, actually a few years back, we have done a similar work to try to get the same information that Google has about you. And what we did is basically the following. We set up a website with this space. You can have a space and tell Google, okay, if you want, you can show ads here. Okay, if somebody comes to my university website and then put a Google space advertisement, then Google can show advertisement there. And in parallel, what we have done, we acted as a commercial, right? I mean, we say, oh, now we are a pizzeria or we are a pet store. And then we want to sell advertisement. We want to make advertisement about our pizza. And then our target people is, for example, we know your age range and so on. And then, in the Google advertisement, you can bet how much you would pay if my advertisement is shown. So what can I do is, oh, you want to enroll for the course, please come on my webpage. I don't know, just a stupid example. You come on my webpage. So I know that you are coming on my webpage. And of course, I have the log of my web server. So I know you are coming here. And then I have 2 or 3 or n advertisement that I'm highly betting on you. So a person living in this area, this age, with a university degree, blah, blah, comes, I bet very high on pet, on pizza or whatever. Then as I am also acting as this merchant, I know whether you are visiting the website and now the pet store got an advertisement shown. Then it means you like pets, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for the hint.
Uh,
There was another clear.
how many users were in this study?
I honestly don't remember. I have to look at it in the paper. I don't remember the numbers. I don't know if I have it in the slide. No, I'm sorry. That's why. Okay, I can look it up. Yeah, we can discuss it. Sure. Okay. So in the interest of time, I will really go very fast because you're already showing up doing some and want to say zero.
I go for another question on the previous slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So of these attributes, do you think it's possible that you'd be able to use this to identify somebody from the public based on census data or something like that? Do you think you can glean enough from a profile on Spotify to be able to identify somebody in, say, census data or something like that?
So you get
So you built the system where you can attribute things about people based on what you see on their Spotify views. Can I then go away and use that information along with public data such as census data to glean even more information about them to get the real data?
Yeah, so if I got it correct, it's basically an observation saying this inference of information could be expanded or amended with other public information about the user.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, these are all kind of building blocks, right?
Yeah.
Then you put all the information together. If you know, for example, that like on social network you have many information, right? So you know that somebody's like music is playing game and you have the account, then you, for example, there's a simple observation is that you can correlate with the previous word or with any other way you can go. Yes. Okay, again, in the interest of time, promise to go very fast. I mean, at least to mention what we have done without many details. So one other work was more on the physical side on the energy. And the idea was whether we were able to know or profile or recognize, identify user based on the energy pattern consumption. And the idea was that, I mean, nowadays buildings are smart and you can profile the single watt socket energy consumption. And the idea is if I just plug well, actually I didn't, but my battery can fall down. If I plug my socket, and if I am a user of the building, already profiled user, I'm not using the network, and you as a attacker, you have no access to my network information. Can you re-identify me only by the energy profile? And the answer was yes, even though the device we used was a very a rough device like 1S sampling rate. And so the rough idea is that we had 7 users of which we knew the consumption profile, and the consumption profile is related to the, of course, the hardware, the operating system, of course, has a significant impact, even the version of operating system, and the set of applications you are running, right? You are listening to the music, to Spotify, and compiling that back, rather than doing something else. There's a different pattern of energy consumption. And okay, I will skip the detail, but you can see roughly here some intuition or preliminary result based on this thing that I mean, this is actually a direction. Talking about energy consumption, the other scenario was the following, where here the idea was not a side channel, was whether we could make a Covert channel. So the idea is we all probably go around airports or rent cars or plug our device everywhere in hotels and so on. The question was, what can be malicious inside battery charging? You just think of the power bank. You go to a conference, they give you a power bank as a gift for the conference. What can be wrong? Can be wrong inside the power bank to steal your information. So the idea here is to have at least one colluding application in the device, and there are even devices, if you're really paranoid, there are this device which is called USB condom that physically block the data transfer. So if you have this device, you're sure all the energy is going through the cable, no data transfer. And the idea here was to have a colluding application on the phone, but the application doesn't ask any security permission. I mean, talking about security net, right? I don't know, maybe common people don't care, but we maybe pay a bit attention when we install an application, if the application is asking permission to get access to our picture, use the internet, this and that. And the overall idea is the following. Basically, we can get, so anything the application has access to, imagine your picture or your contacts, and that's it, no other permission, anything can be, it's 0-1, right? 0-1 can be modulated with a different energy consumption path. And the energy consumption pattern can be observed by who is providing you energy. If you consume energy with a given pattern, with a different pattern, they can be 0 or 1. That's it. You're leaking out information. So, I mean, to show the feasibility of it, we also implemented this in our Arduino Uno board, and we actually experimented. I mean, we don't have time, but if you're curious, you can scan the QR code to see, demo video of this thing. Another question we came up with is about battery profiling, and you don't know if you're aware, but there are a lot of counterfeited battery, a lot of bad business. Here you see some numbers of counterfeited batteries, and there are many attacks over time and solution, of course. And the ultimate, let's say, solution is basically to have a chip on the battery. It's a kind of a computer. I mean, don't think of only this battery. Imagine the battery of your car, right? So it's a very valuable object. So it's very worth having some small computer or chip that does some interaction, some security protocol, some challenge response. But the ultimate attack is to buy real, honest battery and change the internal chemical, physical, chemical components, which is the costly part of the battery. Okay. In that case, the computer is there, the crypto material is there, didn't run any challenge response, but the valuable part of the battery is not there. Okay. And nowadays, particularly, there are these business, particularly in China, where the idea is that if you have an electric vehicle, you don't charge it anymore. You just go to a station, swap your battery with a charged one. Okay. Imagine this type of domain. If you pay for a given whatever battery and you get much less, it's like paying for 100 liters of gasoline and getting half, right? So, and there are of course other scenarios where we kind of get to know where these might be useful. I mean, in sensible scenarios, there can be situation in which you want to do X-ray on your device to make sure that there is no additional component. Like this Hezbollah case, we saw that basically the pager were manipulated with some explosive material. It seems that in that case, the explosive material was on the side of the battery, so it was an additional thing that you could have found with X-ray that they probably didn't do. But what if the explosive material is inside the material itself? So the shape doesn't change. So if you do X-ray, you will not see any change, but the physical component is different, or the physical chemical component is different. So our question was, can we do something from looking at the physical component of the battery to identify or re-identify a specific battery, or at least a brand model of a battery, or what we call the architecture. Architecture means a given composition of a high physical chemical composition of the battery that can come from different brands. Okay, long story short, we built on two building blocks and we make authentication mechanism, leverage this differential capacity analysis as building block and electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. I'm not going into details, but there are physical, probably there are some engineers here that knows more details, but all physical measurements you can do about the battery and they tell you the status of the battery. You can even infer the cycle of charge or the battery status in several ways. And again, long story short here, we were able to identify the specific architecture. I mean, the architecture is a broader concept, not a specific manufacturer, or even the specific battery model with this level of accuracy. So also this is kind of a promising, doable approach. Now I will move to, and time is really running, so is it fine? We have some.
We have the room till 1:30.
Sorry?
We have the room till 1:30.
Okay, yeah, but I also want to keep people here too long. Okay, here we go on the space of inferring information from physical properties to infer keystrokes. particularly, keystroke timing is one of the measures that has been used for decades for user identification. It works very well on traditional keyboards, and you can get all sort of a time, right? When you type, you can do all this sort of measurement, how long you press the key and so on. And so the question here was whether the same can be used on the smartphone. And also we wanted something to be resilient against statistical attacks. Statistical attacks means that instead of attacking a given victim, let's say Ashokan, with another random user, like Mahesh, try to have this physical input to see whether it can bypass a victim user, try to build, let's say, a trait of the victim based on a population of data. Okay, so we wanted two of this. So we want to build some keystroke inference based on the timing or authentication based on the timing for mobile users. But also we wanted this to be resilient against statistical attacks. So basically, what we have done is we consider the movement sensors of the phone. The phones are now equipped with a lot of movement sensors. And while you're typing, you're slightly moving the phone, if you don't notice. First of all, from this movement, you can infer what you're typing. But if you want to use this as a authentication, let me go to the result. Basically, what we've shown is that if you use all these sensors without forgetting about the timing of the key press, you have a quite good result for authenticating user. And this is also resilient against statistical attacks, okay? Or at least it's more resilient than using also the data about the timing. Now let's go back to the joke that we made at the beginning. This is a paper we published a few years ago, and here the question was whether the timing, which was one of the suspects, was giving us any information about the actual password beyond the length, nickname, and so on. Again, we used here only the timing. We did two consecutive key press. And the idea is the following. Basically, we have a population of people from which we get the timing. So we ask a lot of users to come and type, and we read the text that they type and the distance between the characters. And then we have, at the point, we have a victim. And then all we do is try to see if from this data we can infer anything about the victim. And to do this, we pick 4 passwords. Actually, it's not this one. We pick 4 passwords, which are this one, from the have been born data sets. You should be, I guess, familiar with all of you. And out of this, we have done this experiment showing that if the password is very trivial, then our baseline, the baseline that we consider is an adversary that knows the publicly known password frequency. Okay, so if you go on this admin phone database, you find a lot of data set of password, and we already know that the most frequent password is password. The second most frequent is 124, then 125, and so on. So if you don't know anything about the user and the password is on top of that list of highly frequently used, you better use this approach, which is the red performance. But if the password is a bit down in the list, even though like 002 is not that strong password, but it's down in the list of frequent password, then leveraging the information about timing, it can bring some significant improvement in the brute force attack. Okay, we were getting good results, but we were not getting directly money with this. So we thought of attacking the ATM PIN, okay, which is much more restricted set because the number of digits is much lower, and the idea is having access to the visual typing. You have no camera and not having access to the keyboard. Okay, not screen access, not keyboard access. But what you can do, you can extrapolate the peak of the from the audio, because for some standard I think also in US, ATM machines have an audio filter. For each press, there is a beep, like beep, 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 while you're typing. Of course, they are all the same, gladly. But still there is a beep. So you know when they use a deep press. So you can be just close to somebody withdrawing money with your phone and record that audio, like the WhatsApp audio, and that's it. That's all you need. You might also add this thermal camera information that somebody mentioned at the beginning. And with these two information, long story short, 50% of the pin, roughly, we can guess within 3 attempts. Only by timing and thermal information. Let's keep some other discussion. If you're curious, here there is some other demo video. There is a small other work we have done on the pin, since we were focusing on the pin. I thought that was smart because I covered my hand when I typed the pin, but actually that's not that smart thing, particularly if the adversary is using a bit of image processing and vision capabilities. And basically in this case, I mean, we've shown, this heat map of human and model. So basically, because of the physical constraint of our hands, with the image processing, you can basically know exactly where I'm timing with the hand. This is something we was mentioning at the beginning because of the accuracy of microphone, but even our phone is quite accurate and good with the microphone. In this case, what we wanted to understand whether would have been possible getting an audio of a phone call or even a WhatsApp audio. Actually, we have done the experiment with WhatsApp audios for making it easier. The question was, if I have audio of a person, can we tell the room in which the person was and the position inside the room? And because of the reflection that the audio has, so basically now I'm talking, so if I'm having a phone call, there is a wave hitting the microphone, but there are other waves hitting the walls or the chairs and coming back, right? And this slightly delay is due of the shape of the room. So basically leveraging this information to some extent, and also showing just the result here. Here we have different position and different places. Here we have only different rooms. And you can see also the heat map in this case, the results of the algorithms are quite good. But the only, clinical situation, if you are, of course, in two similar rooms. If the shape of the rooms are very similar, like you mentioned, other rooms or offices, and the furniture in the office is very similar, maybe it's more common in other rooms, then it's hard to say it was in room X or room Y. But if the furniture in the room are different, then you can distinguish. Okay, I would probably skip this on USB, where we also leverage the energy pattern of the USB to profile whether USB is a given type, because there have been over time several attacks with USB sticks, like for example USB impersonating some other device. You plug like a USB storage stick to transfer your slides, but all of a sudden the firmware tells that device to behave as a keyboard and type something on a terminal. Okay, or do some other bad stuff.
Yeah,
There was a question
about the research. So I'm wondering whether the experiment of this research, you take the ambient sound into consideration, where it's done in a quiet indoor room.
What is
Whether you take the ambient sound into consideration.
ambience?
Yeah.
What is
The
sound? Oh, the experiment we have done, there was, I think, there was no sound generated by us in the room. In some, there was some sound in the street, but there was no additional sound or no external sound. So the assumption is that the person is alone in the room and doing the call. Yeah. Okay. Inside in this slide, within the glass. Okay, so this is another work. This also came up by chance after at the end of our meeting. group meeting, I was looking at the projector and the cable of the beamer, and then I thought that something might go wrong on the trust that we give to the HDMI cable like this one, right? So I don't know how many of you, but I do. I usually go in my office and I plug a docking station or a USB cable with an external one, right? You do the same? Okay. Now, the big question is, should we try that cable? I mean, many offices are, physically unattended for part of the time, right? There's somebody going in the office and we might potentially change the cable, or we might buy a cable online that we might not trust. And then the question was, what can go wrong in this case if somebody can hack the cable? We call this hack DMI. And again, you can see a video here, but a very basic, simple, motivation for this attack can be phishing. So even if you're a crypto nerd, if you receive a mail like this with a URL like this, hosthub.com, you will never put the credential in there, right? Say, no, I'm a smart person. They told me I have to look here, I have to log, see the log. If you want, you can open the certificate, check bit by bit the certificate. Yes, you can do it. And imagine you see bankofamerica.com, you open the certificate, you have a perfect certificate. Then at that point, you might trust this website, right? Even if you're a crypto nerd. But what if somebody is in the middle between your computer and the monitor, particularly the HDMI cable? You can get all the frames, can manipulate all the frame. And this can happen. Again, if you're interested, you can see the video here. I will now skip this one and just mention, about this work. This is actually started really with a joke. We were in a conference call with Jim Sudik talking about completely different work. It was a network security information centric network privacy work. We were discussing with the student, and then all of a sudden the student was like, some of you now typing, you were in a conf call on Skype. And then Jim was kind of disappointed. He said, come on, what are you doing? Please pay attention. And then the student justifying himself, saying, oh, no, listen, but I'm taking notes. And then I was completely joyous. Oh, maybe from the noise, we can know what keys you pressed. And we know exactly what you're writing, and we know you're chatting with your friend, not taking notes. Then we were silent for a few seconds, and actually say, oh, maybe it's doable. Let's do it. And then we asked that student to do the experiment, and the other student joined later on. And if you want, I can maybe show you directly the video, because what happened is that we actually, did the work. We published it first at the HSCCS, then in Breakout. And then what happened is that after the paper was published, a journalist from Forbes called me and said, Professor, I saw this article. I would like to have an interview with you, and you tell me about the work you have done. I said, okay, fine. I was happy. And then before closing the call, the journalist told me, but you know what, tomorrow when I call it, so at 1 p.m., I want to try. So I will type, and you have to tell me what I'm typing. I say, sure, no problem. I close the call, I say the word I cannot repeat, but I was slightly worried that it might have not worked in that time, so it would have been very bad mess, but luckily it worked. And if I have enough connection, maybe I can show it. So the journalist gave us 3 challenges. The first one was a whole sentence from the Orwell's book that you see here in the top right part. And the first thing that we do, we identify the space bar. We human probably can still identify the different sound or noise between the space bar and other keys. And then we apply the algorithm to each single character, and then of course we can make up the word. And I mean, as I mentioned before, we can use the standard knowledge, like, oh, is the user writing in Italian, in English, and so on. And of course, you can have error correction in terms of the syntax of the word and so on. So what is showing green is something we correctly guess. And then talking about, external knowledge, in this case, we knew the challenge. This is an always book sentence. So we have big portion of the sentence. We say, okay, if you want, we can play with you that we are using the algorithm. We can just Google that the other part of the sentence. The second challenge was a single word that might be a password. Not a strong password, but maybe not also that common word. And then, in the end, it becomes a bit tough. It was joking. I don't know if you can hear, but you put the loud music on the phone, close to the microphone of the computer. And in that case, of course, we were not able to understand anything. But if you do conference call with me for work, please don't put up loud music. The most we can do, we can dance. Okay, and of course, there can be many scenarios where, even if it is not a password, you mentioned acquisition of companies, or even research teams, where two of them chat. They belong to the same organization, but they're sitting in different physical places at that moment, and they are chatting about the other person. It can be a candidate, it can be a company they want to buy, and so on. And of course, that can be, very tricky information. Okay, with this, I think I finished the presentation. If there are any questions, nice to answer.
I think you can still take one or two questions. People in the call, if you want to ask a question, either raise your hand and Ian can unmute you, or just type in the question like a Q&A, and I can read it out to Mauro. Any questions from the audience here?
So once you see that there's these attacks available, the next question is how do you defend against some of these attacks? And one thought I had was, the typical way is you just aggregate your data with something else, or you did something to make sure that you don't show out from other data. So is there some easy solutions to that? No, like if you had your phone play fake keystrokes along the way as well, or
So thanks for the question. The answer is, the question is there an easy solution? And I continue that we can use for any context, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
So this is very context dependent, right? So depending on what is a specific context, you have a set of solutions. Some of them can be easy. One is in the title of the paper, don't Skype and type, right? Yeah. So of course, as many things in security, the first thing is be aware, right? Be aware that this can happen. So if you know that this can happen, then probably next time, if you are in a very sensible scenario, you will not type a password of very sensible things. That's a step 0, I would call it. After that, there are many things you can do. First of all, if we were able to identify a keystroke and identify what specific keystroke, the big question is why Skype and others cannot do the same and remove it. That would be the ultimate solution, right? The main reason why they didn't do, at least before our work, is that, in our laptop, the scenario was user with a laptop. And the laptop, we have two microphones with a small distance. And the idea, that my understanding is that they try to get the voice and the whatever is in front, and to remove what is on the side or what is moved, right? So if there is a car, probably the car passing by can be easily removed, because the two microphones understand this noise is coming from here, and then they can remove that part. While they try to keep everything that is coming from front, because probably it's the user. Now the challenge is that the keyboard is exactly in front, right? So that might have not been easily removed, or probably they focused on external noise. But if they put effort, I believe they could remove. That's another thing. Or you can use other type of keyboards. You can, in some scenarios like the ATM, you can scramble the digit, right? I mean, it's not hard to have instead of a mechanical keyboard to have a digital keyboard where you scramble the digit. Then do. Some do. That probably impact also the usability, which is another, I mean, friend that we work in security, we have to take care of, right? Because if you scramble the pad of the pin pad every time, then the user that even barely remember the pin, say, well, now was it here? Okay, now what? Right? So there are many challenges that you have to keep in mind, but there are solutions. Yeah. The first thing, I mean, as we know, always start to be aware that there might be a threat, and then see the best one.
I still don't see any questions online. So this is the last chance.
So I guess one of the solutions is
For which part?
is like differential privacy, right? Introducing noise into the signals such that you protect privacy. I guess it's more of a statement. I'm just trying to get your intuition of how we introduce noise but maintain the utilities in these situations. I guess it's the solution, but I don't know how it's achievable.
Yeah, probably differential privacy is theoretically one of the tools that we can use. The challenge is probably to map, to map the physical words on whatever data you want to apply differential privacy on, right? I mean, that's probably another big challenge we face on many, areas to work on, right? If you have a formal proof of something, maybe the big challenge is to how you formalize, right? Because once you formalize, maybe you can get a formal proof, but if you do mistake in formalizing or representing the environment and the attacker is using something you didn't formalize, you're still lost, right?
So in the interest of time, I'm going to formally close the here. If you're a student and you still want to talk tomorrow, there's a student meeting 3 to 4 at DC 1331, right? So get hold of Ashish. If you're not a student and still want to talk tomorrow, I have a 1 hour slot with him, so I can start auctioning it off. Talk to me if you're not a student, but you still want to have time with it. He's going to be here for the rest of the day, at least till mid-afternoon. So with that, let's start.